Hey everybody, it's Diane O'Brien again, your headhunting housewife. We are on session 7, I believe, out of a 10-clip series of starting your home-based business and being a headhunting housewife. On this session, we've gone through a lot. If you've stuck with me through the whole thing, getting your clients and how to find a client and finding the candidates, and what goes involved in all those phone calls and emails. This number 7 is going to be lucky 7, making the match. This whole business of recruiting and headhunting, even though you say headhunting, it really speaks more to hunting down of candidates. You're having to hunt the client side too, but really it's about matchmaking. And it's very, similar when you think of matchmaking anyway. You're having two different people that you're bringing together, and that you're going to kind of be the mother hen a little bit as the recruiter, to get them to the end game, which in recruiting is a contract, a signing on the dotted line for someone to be hired, and hopefully getting an offer letter that they'll sign to go to work for that person. So what we've come to so far, you have a client now that you've spoken to that's giving you a job order. You now have a candidate or candidates that you've had a couple conversations with. And what you've done in between here in the back end, there are often a lot of emails going back and forth. You're sending emails to the candidate about the client. You're sending links to their website. You're writing little emails about hot buttons maybe for the hiring manager. Again, I'll get in depth on that stuff more at another time or in a different format. But now you're gonna schedule the two of them to meet, okay, and then follow this through to probably a couple meetings before the offer comes. But the typical scenario is that you want to schedule their first phone interview, and this is where process is important too. You could really process map out this for, I think, all the positions I've worked in different realms follow the same process. And I was just covering this with someone the other day, where even if you have a manager that just wants to go and meet all three at an airport, one day, or at a hotel, have them do a phone interview with the person first, even if they don't want to, or don't recommend that, or don't think of that, because there's something too I found over the years, that little bit of buy-in on the phone. If they have a phone conversation, the person's a little bit more of a person to them, a real life person, versus then when they finally first sit down for the face-to-face meeting, and to have that first awkward, like, hi, I'm so and so, and you're so and so, and oh, nice to meet you, and just not knowing them from anybody, versus if a manager can meet the candidate and they're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you finally, and we spoke on the phone for a while. It's just the setting of that. It's just more of like, almost like in sales. You have the cold sales call and the warm sales call. This is warming the call up a little bit. Instead of being cold for both your candidate and client, you're making it a nice, warm, cozy setting. You just want, all things in your favor to close this deal. So that's the first thing I would say. So they had their phone call. Now you want to get them to meet. And scheduling, I should have a whole topic on scheduling. I'll do a clip on that, but scheduling is key. And for you to understand how the schedule goes and to have realistic expectations is key as well. I've seen recruiters make a lot of mistakes here and get frustrated, and just know that, basically what's going to happen is when you schedule a phone interview for the manager, that's going to be 1 week, let's say, today's whatever Monday, and they're talking this Thursday that's scheduled for. Great phone interview. They want to hopefully go right to a face-to-face. Maybe it's a follow-up phone. Regardless, if it's a second phone or face-to-face, that'll be the next week, okay? So you're in week 2. Let's say they were lucky enough to go right to a face-to-face. So great. From the face-to-face, it'll probably take a week or two to then get to the final interview, which is another face-to-face. Because by the final, you're also pulling in other people often, other decision makers, to meet that person, sign off on an offer going out. So, and just like I'm talking on the client side here, a week there, a week for the follow-up. That's kind of how it played out for you too. If you look back in your process, and we'll talk more about this later, you'll see yourself fall into a rhythm where you get a job order. It'll take the first full week of just finding good candidates. By the second week, you're putting calls out to have a couple ready for your client. Definitely by week 3 or so. And then, so it's taking that whole 3 to 4 weeks of it, kind of where it's in your court, and you keep fueling that with good people. And then because of scheduling for their phone interview, for their face-to-face, for their follow-up, or to meet anybody else. Plus, when the offer comes out, keep in mind, they usually have a couple weeks to, not a couple weeks to sign, which could be a couple weeks, but they have time before they talk to their family and decide. And then even after they decide, there's 2 weeks before the start date. Start date's very important, because start date is when you get paid. All recruiters typically get paid upon start date. And even that's that's true for retained searches. Instead of though getting all your money at the start date, you'll probably get the final sum at the start date, because at that point you're working a third, a third, a third. But probably for you, you're getting a contingent, all your money at that start date, which will be net 30. So we'll talk invoicing later. But that's what you're getting to. So again, the goal being is to be smart about the calendar when you're looking at the calendar, scheduling things. Know the time frame if you're hiring to a training date. That's so important. If I've hired often, not just one person, but if you're lucky enough to hire for, let's say, a group of 10 people, which is so gravy as far as the income that you can make. It's excellent if you get to that realm, because you're hiring a lot of the same people, just in different cities. You might hire in New York and San Francisco and in Texas, whether it's Dallas or wherever, and wherever you'll hire different cities, but all for the same position. So you can really kind of spin through a lot of positions, but you're hiring to a training date. So if it's, let's say, October 15th and the train date is January 1st, you want to work backwards from your goal of that start date to where you should be in the process to make sure you're where you need to be. And that's really important. I'll talk more about process later. But I'm going to stop this clip here just talking about matchmaking. That's kind of how that's going to work to get them together. You'll want to be involved in the scheduling of that first meeting. And from here, we'll go on to session 8 to kind of follow that through a little bit more.